characteristics of the Arabic letters. Okay, so we're going to talk about the characteristics, or what some people call the attributes, of the Arabic letters, and this is a very important part of tajweed, especially when you get to mastering your recitation. And it's something that you will learn in theory, and we're going to do that here now. However, this is really mastered with a teacher of tajweed who will point out mistakes as you recite your surahs, and it takes a while to master this. So the importance of these attributes or characteristics comes into play when a group of letters which share the same point of articulation, i.e. the same makharij, then sometimes it's difficult to differentiate the letters, and they're actually differentiated by the different characteristics that the letters have at that point of articulation. Now, the characteristics themselves are divided for clarity's sake into two categories. One category is with opposites, so they're characteristics of letters and they have opposite characteristics that other letters have. And then there are characteristics without opposites, which means the characteristic itself is unique to a set of letters and there's no opposite characteristic to that characteristic. And this will become apparent when we go through the list of different characteristics. So characteristics with opposites, so we're just going to cover the sort of major categories and then we'll see which letters fall into these categories. So we have the continuation of breath, and the opposite of that is letters that have a stoppage of breath. Then we have letters which have a strong stoppage of the sound, the continuation of the sound, which is the complete opposite, and in this case we have one which is in between the two, which is in between stoppage and continuation of the sound. Then we have the near closure of the mouth during pronunciation, and the opposite of that is inside the mouth there's room or it remains open. Then we have the attribute of smooth and easy to pronounce, i.e. some letters are easy and very smooth to pronounce, other ones are produced with effort. We have heaviness in pronunciation, lightness in pronunciation. So most people know this as the light and heavy letters, which will have another lesson individually on that particular topic as well. Now, characteristics which don't have opposites are letters which are pronounced with a whistling sound, letters which are pronounced with a echo sound, and again we'll have a separate lesson on the echo sound, pronounced in a soft manner, so that was the soft consonants that we cover in the lesson on soft consonants. Then we have leaning away from one point of articulation to another, having a slight vibration, spreading of the sound in the mouth, and pronounced slowly. And now we're going to go through all of these characteristics with groups of letters that fall into them and explain them in a bit more depth. So the first one we're going to take in the grouping of those with opposites is stoppage and continuation of sound. So we have three characteristics here, which is strong collision or stoppage, the continuation of sound, i.e. no collision or stoppage, and there's one in between. And in the Arabic we've got the terminologies for them here, so we've got shiddah, rakhawa and tawassat, and they've got a certain number of letters in them, so we'll just read through the points. So the first one, the strong collision or stoppage, the strong collision of the organs of articulation when the letter is sakin, which causes a strong stoppage of sound. So an example of that, if we take the kaf, which is in bold, when it's with the sukun, it will have a sound of, for instance, ak, ak, ak. So it's a sudden stoppage and collision of sound. Then we have the continuation of sound. The continuation of sound upon pronunciation of the letter when it is sakin. There is no collision and the sound is soft. This is the opposite of the shiddah, and this is when the letters are sakin again. So one we'll take is the fa. So again, if we say af, af, so there's a continuation of the sound of the actual fa, and it's quite a soft sound. And then we have those in between, so they're neither a strong collision or a soft continuation of sound. This is a moderation between the strong collision and the continuation of sound. The sound of the letter is not stopped, nor is it allowed to continue. Okay, and again, this is when the letters are sakin. So if we take the meme, it'll be am, am. So we have ak, af, am. So they're the three different types of characteristics that we have. Now we're going to talk about the continuation or stoppage of the breath, known as hams and jahr. So continuation of breath, slight release of air after the pronunciation of the letter. It is stronger when the letter is sakin and weaker when the letter is not sakin. So we'll take the example of the ta. So when you say, for example, tabbat, there's a release of air at the end, and that's known as the hams. Then we have the stoppage of breath. The stoppage of the breath at the stoppage of the breath at the articulation point of the letter when the letter is sakin, and this is the opposite of the hams. So the example is the dal. So we'll take the example of saying mid-deen. So what you have to avoid is saying mid-deen with a d, like the letting of air through. So you have to be careful not to let the air through, so you're not allowed to do the hams. So again, it would be mid-deen. And this is one of the topics that you will have to train with a tajweed teacher in order to perfect. This one is closure and opening of the inside of the mouth. So we've got itbaq and infatah. And in English, we'll keep to the English, it's easier to remember. We've got near closure of the mouth. The near closure of the mouth is caused by the tongue being elevated towards the top of the mouth. This happens when the letters are sakin or vowel, so that means all the time. So if we take the saw, if you say saw, then you'll notice that your mouth actually closes up. Even if you do it a sakin, you say aus, aus. Again, your mouth, and we're talking about really the inside part of your mouth, is all closed together. Then we have the mouth remains open, and we don't mean the outside of the mouth, we're talking about the inner part of the mouth. The tongue remains away from the top of the mouth, and hence the mouth remains open. The tongue may be raised for some letters, but will not be pressed against the top of the mouth. This is the opposite of the near closure. And if we take the letter ba, so if you say ba, you'll notice that obviously your mouth is very open, and even if you say ab, ab, you'll notice that your tongue is away from the roof of your mouth, and generally inside the mouth it's still open. So we've got all the letters there. You can study the letters in their groups by pausing the video if you need to. Pronounce with ease or effort. So we've got smooth and easy, known as idlaq, and then we have pronounce with effort, which is ismat. So the first one, these letters require very little effort to say and come out with ease. So again, the fa, if it's voweled, it'd be fa. If it's sakin, it's af, but generally it's easy to pronounce. Pronounce with effort. A certain amount of effort is required in order to pronounce these letters. This is the opposite of smooth and easy. So if we take the ha, then when you say it, you say ha. So it requires you to press the tongue in a certain place. You need a bit more breath at the beginning. If you say ach, ach, it takes effort. So that's what they're talking about with this characteristic. Then we move on to heaviness or lightness in pronunciation, and this is known more commonly as tafkhim and tawqiq. So the heavy letters, the elevation of the back of the tongue, so it touches the roof of the mouth. This produces a thick sound. With the heavy letters, the tongue is just raised, whereas for the closure of the mouth, that's the one we did just before, there is actual contact. So generally with this one, the heavy letters, it's the back of the tongue that goes up, with the closure of the mouth, almost the whole mouth closes together. So the closure ones were a subset of the heavy letters. So we'll take again the sad. Now if you say aus, it's the back of the tongue, and that one's closed up completely as well, so it's one of the closed ones. If we say the qaf, now the qaf, you'll notice that the back of the tongue is raised, but the front of the tongue should be down. And the same if you say aqqa, aqqa, the back of the tongue is raised, but the front of the tongue is down. So they're heavy in terms of the elevation of the back of the tongue, but it's not full closure of, or near closure of the mouth. The light letters then, the lowering of the back of the tongue so it does not touch the top of the mouth, this causes a flat sound, and this is a majority of the letters. And again, with these two characteristics, we'll have a separate lesson on them. So we've got the meme here, so if you say ma or you say generally the back of the tongue is lowered, i.e. the letters are not heavy. Now we come to the characteristics which have no opposites. So we've got one here called the whistling sound, or safir, and it says here these letters always create a whistling sound which is stronger when the letter is sakin. So for instance, the sin, when you say sa, si, su, there's a sort of whistling taking place. Or you say as, or with the za or the zay, you can say as. So it has a slight whistling sound to it. Then we have the echo sounds known as the qalqala, and this again we'll have an entire section on this, but it says the letters require the moving away of the point of articulation in order to complete the sound. This causes an echo. This applies only when the letter is sakin. When you stop on the sakin letter, the echo is harder, which they call kubra, and when not stopping or in the middle of the word is softer. So we'll cover this in a separate lesson on the intensities of the echo itself. So an example of this, again, we've got the qaf. So if you're stopping on it, as in sakin, it will be aqqa. With the ba, it will be ab. Now the thing is, if you don't have that slight echo, you can't complete the sound. So if you try to keep your lips together when you say ab, you'll get ab, but you can't. You have to release in order to complete the sound, and that's the echo. This takes a bit of mastery with a teacher to know how much to do, how much not to do. Then we have the soft consonants, which we have a separate lesson on, and they're known as the lean, harf lean, but the attribute here is called lean. And it says here they are soft sounds that last two counts. They are sakin letters preceded by the fatha. So this is the ow and the a, which are very soft, have no direct contact with most of the mouth on the point of completing the sound. We have one here called leaning away, which is inhiraf, and this only applies to the ra and the lam. So the leaning away of the tongue from its point of articulation until it nears another point of articulation. This is more of a caution than a rule. So if you were to say the ra, you'll notice as you release the tip of the tongue from where the ra starts from, it moves towards the lam, and when you say the la, it actually moves towards the ra, and the caution here is not to mix the two sounds up. So again, that's under a trained teacher will teach you that. The vibration, or the takrir, is when pronouncing the ra, there is a very slight vibration which is valid and correct. Care must be taken not to make the vibration too visible. This is more of a caution than a rule. So what they're talking about here, for instance, if we say ar-rah, as in ar-rahman, there's a very slight vibration when the tip of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, and we're going to have a separate lesson on the ra, the heavy and the light ra, because they're actually quite difficult to master. However, what you're not allowed to do in tajweed is to say ar. You can't have this very heavy vibration. That must be taken out, and if you do have this problem, or your tajweed teacher will teach you how to get it out. So again, you can say ar-rah, and there's a very, very slight vibration, but that's valid. The spreading sound is known as tafashi, and this only occurs with one letter, which is the sheen. The spreading of air between the tongue and the roof of the mouth, this is more pronounced when the letter is sakin. So if you say ash, ash, you'll feel as your tongue comes towards the top of your mouth, the air that's passing through up from the throat hits the top of your mouth and spreads right across your tongue and out through your mouth. So again, say ash. So that's called the spreading sound. Pronounce slowly then the elongated sound, known as istitala. To pronounce the letter slowly, this applies only to the letter, or rather when the letter carries a shadda or the letter is sakin, and this applies to the dad. Now in Surah Fatiha you have wala dallin, and that's when the dad carries the shadda, and you'll notice when you join to the dad, you hold it for slightly longer than you would any other letter. So it's wala da. Okay, so that wala da is what they call the elongated sound.